Well, it's Sunday. Usually on Sundays, I like to do a little bit of a watch talk or a top 10, something like that. So today I have a little bit of a combination of both. We're talking about top 10 watches that collectors love. However, I will never buy. All of the reasons why I would not buy any of these watches are personal, and of course that could always change. It could be a whole brand or it could be a specific watch. I have 10 different watches or brands to go through. So let's get into my number one pick. Right off the bat, all of these will be somewhat controversial. The only reason why I say that is because a lot of the watches that I'm going to mention here are watches that many of you probably have in your collection. I have specific reasons why I personally don't like each one of these watches. Some of them I have owned, some of them I've avoided. And my first pick, and these are in no particular order, this is a watch that I've actually owned. It is the Omega Seamaster Professional 300 meter dive watch. This is a really great tool watch. This is a very popular watch. I think it's also a very good looking watch. It gets 300 meters of water resistance. It's really well made. They're now METAS certified. However, for me, I will never buy an Omega Seamaster Professional 300 because of the bracelet. Now, there is a few caveats to this. The mesh bracelets that they've been using on some of their models recently, I like, but I don't love. So there's still something keeping me from buying these watches, and it has to do with the bracelets. Now, the bracelets on the standard models, the one that has been used for many, many years, it's a multi-link bracelet, I just don't like. It reminds me of a 1990s watch. And that's because the Seamaster 300 was born in the 1990s, and they have never really updated the look of this bracelet. It doesn't taper a lot. I wouldn't say it's elegant. When I'm buying a dive watch, if there is a bracelet option, I want to own that bracelet. It's just something visually about it that I can't get over, and that's the reason why I will never own an Omega Seamaster 300. The next one I think might be pretty obvious by now because I have said this over and over and over again on my channel: Tudor Black Bay. The Tudor Black Bay 58, it doesn't really matter which one. I'm not a Tudor Black Bay fan. I've owned Tudor Black Bays. I've owned some weird ones. It's the standard ones that I actually don't like. I like the weirder ones, the ones with the weird cases and the weird case materials. It's the standard Black Bay 58, 41, even the 43. I'm not all that big of a fan of because it essentially is an homage to a Rolex, and a lot of people get crazy about Rolex homages, but meanwhile Rolex homage themselves and no one goes crazy about it. In fact, it's one of the most celebrated watches that you can buy. They're extremely popular. They sell tons of them, and that's also kind of one of the reasons why I probably will never own one. It's because I know too many people with a Black Bay 58, and I don't like to see my watch on other people's wrists. So for that reason, I probably will never own a Tudor, in conjunction with the fact that it is an homage to the Submariner. The Submariner was a watch at one point in my life I did want. Now I don't even want the Submariner, so what would be the point of getting an homage to the Submariner? So there you go. That's my reasons for not wanting a Tudor Black Bay. The next is not a watch, it is a whole brand. There hasn't been a Breitling that I have found appealing in a very long time. I used to like the Navitimer a lot. I still like it, but I'm not in love with it. It's not something special enough for me to buy. I also really loved the Emergency. I still love the Emergency. However, I do not like the current Emergencies. They are much larger and they are way more expensive. I think that I would eventually own a vintage Emergency. Basically, the whole point behind the Emergency is that you have a transponder within your watch, and if you are lost on a mountain or skiing or something like that, you could unscrew the two crowns, and there's an antenna that you basically pull from the case. It sends out a homing beacon, and basically it could save your life if you're ever lost or trapped or something like that. All modern Breitling are really not for me. I think the aesthetics, it's something about the way that they're made, the way that they look. I'm not a huge fan. They are very nice watches, and I know a lot of people who love Breitling. I'm just not a Breitling guy. I have not had a Breitling in my collection for a very long time. I did own a Super Ocean at one point, sold that, wasn't too crazy about it, and I never bought another one. That is my own personal thing. It has to do with aesthetics. There aren't really many other reasons behind it. Maybe one day they will come out with something that I find attractive. At that point, we'll see. Next is a watch that I just recently sold to fund another watch. And I thought about it, and I wasn't really sad about selling it. And a lot of the times when I make a sale, I end up regretting that sale. This is my Cartier Santos, or was my Cartier Santos. I had an ADLC version, really a beautiful watch, a very nice everyday watch, but there was something about it that it just didn't get any wrist time. It had a pretty standard movement inside. It was made by Richemont, but it's basically competition to the ETA 2892. It wasn't anything crazy. 100 meters of water resistance and general good looks. But recently, I found myself a little bit overloaded with Cartier. I feel like everyone is hyping up Cartier like they are hyping up Rolex. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel as though that is the case. They are an overhyped brand now. At one point, maybe they were a little bit cool and under the radar, but now I feel like the entire world is overhyping Cartier. And when I would look at my wrist, I just don't like an overhyped watch. And that felt like an overhyped watch in my opinion. I still think that they're really good looking. I think they're really well made. I think they're really versatile, but they're just not for me anymore. The next watch is the AP Royal Oak. This one is a really simple reason. I just feel like this watch is so overhyped. I feel as though it is very much in the same box as Rolex. People go out and buy an AP Royal Oak only because they want to flex. It's a flex watch. There are a lot of people out there who actually love AP and they love the Royal Oak. There are a lot of people like that, but there are more people who go out and buy it only to flex. It's the same reason why I really don't love Rolex, because I feel the same way about Rolex. More people who buy Rolexes are more interested in the hype of Rolex being able to flex and show that they have a Rolex on their wrist. And that's the reason why people are buying APs now, because it's sort of like Rolex, but the next level. And I don't want to play that game. AP don't really sell any other watches except for the Royal Oak. Everything else they sell really doesn't sell at all. I could really stay away from the Royal Oak for the rest of my life and it wouldn't bother me at all. The next watch on this list is probably going to be a surprise for most. I'm going to say the Omega Speedmaster. There are a lot of watches in that category, and I'm kind of overloaded with Omega Speedmasters. I do appreciate the Speedmaster. I think right now it's a watch that I wouldn't buy, not because I don't like it. It's again because I don't want to see it on everyone else's wrists. So there maybe are a few exceptions to this rule. So let's say if it was a full moonshine gold version on a bracelet, yes, I would definitely want to buy that watch if it was for the right price. However, at the moment, most moon watches are not on my list. They keep on coming out with new iterations and they really just don't wow me. So that's the reason why I would say right now, this might change in the future because I do like this watch. But right now, I probably will not be buying any Speedmasters. The next one I'm going to really skim over because I think I've made enough videos about this, but Rolex. Rolex is a hype brand. I am not a hype watch collector. I am pretty sick of Rolex, and I don't know what would have to change at Rolex to get me back, but I have to say all Rolex, not going to buy. However, I do like the Rolex Cellini line. I've been really liking what they've been doing. Again, those are very expensive pieces and I probably would never buy one. I would probably buy something else before I ever would buy a Rolex Cellini. So we could just put Rolex in a box and put it away because for me, I am never going to buy a Rolex. Another watch that I think a lot of collectors love, and it's always in like the top recommended watches that collectors should buy or every collector should have, the Tag Heuer Monaco. There's something about the Tag Heuer Monaco that I have never liked. I think they're cool watches. I just don't like them aesthetically. There are a lot of problems with Tag Heuer. That has nothing to do with this. It is really all aesthetics for me. It's a square watch that looks kind of awkward. It's also a chronograph. Something about it I just don't absolutely love, and I don't know. Right now, I only own one vintage Tag Heuer. There's not many modern Tag Heuers that I love. Maybe the Skipper I think is pretty cool, but I think the Monaco is a definite never buy for me just because aesthetically, not my favorite. And you know, Tag Heuer, I've never had a problem with them, and they're definitely watches that I like. But right now, I would say the Monaco is definitely a no-go for me. The next brand, I think a lot of people will get mad with me, but I'm not sure. The Nomos Club. There are actually a number of Nomos that I don't like, but the Club in particular, I just don't like. I do like their new World Timer, the Club that they've used, or they've used the Club case for a new World Timer, but everything else that was in that case prior to this, I don't like. It looks like a watch that a child would draw, in my opinion. It's just very, very bland. It's just my opinion. Again, I know a lot of people love Nomos. They have really great movements. I think that they have a really good quality. It's just that the Club is not appealing to me. I think it looks too simple. It's just too straightforward. And that sometimes is a good thing. In this case, not at all for me. Last but not least, and the one that really does break my heart the most, is Panerai. I used to love Panerai. I had at one point around 5 Panerai. Right now I have 1 Panerai left in my collection, and that one will never leave my collection because my wife bought it for me. But it is crazy that I have sold all of my Panerai and I am left with 1 Panerai in my collection. And there's a reason that is the case. A lot of what Panerai have done over the past few years with the limited editions that they've been coming out with, all of their watches look the same. They keep on coming out with new iterations, but every time I see a new watch on Hodinkee, or if it's whatever website that's covering it, I look at it and it's a Panerai and it looks like every other Panerai that I've seen prior to that. And I see it and it's a limited edition of 200, 500, I don't know, whatever it is. And it's just a different color dial. Maybe it's slightly less fume or whatever they do. They change these little details and they come up with this backstory for the watch, and it just doesn't make any sense. At one point they were selling for way over list price, and they were sort of the first hype brand, one of the first hype brands. But now I think that they have completely lost the script. They should go back to way smaller numbers of watches. They make too many watches per year. They're everywhere. And I think that was what made Panerai cool in the first place. The fact that they were basically nowhere. You couldn't find them anywhere. And that was the major appeal of Panerai. When they started coming out with all these watches and all these different iterations, it just made them not special. And then of course, they came out with smaller versions with less water resistance. It's a dive watch company with a dive watch aesthetic. I get it. You want to make some dress watches, put more than 30 meters of water resistance. There was a lot of problems with these watches for no reason. Just bad decisions, bad marketing, bad management. Unfortunately, you guys, my wife worked there. I really loved the company for many, many years. But at this point, I could probably tell you without a doubt, I will never buy another Panerai, unfortunately. Anyway, guys, that is my list of watches. Tell me what you think down in the comments below. If you own one of the watches that I listed here, I apologize to you. It has nothing to do with you. It only has to do with me. It's not you, it's me. I don't like these specific watches, and maybe that opinion will change in the future. Like I said, I never say never. I did say never a few times in this video, but the fact is I never say never, so my mind does change pretty often, and maybe one of the watches that are on this list will be on my buy list in the future. I never know. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Tell me a brand or a watch that you will never buy down in the comments below. One that is loved by collectors, like the ones that I've listed here on this video. I want to hear from you guys, so tell me down in the comments below. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Take it easy on me in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next video.